Hey, it's God's Comic Brad Stine, and what is with this atheist? I don't believe in your fairy tale invisible spaghetti monster god ludicrous premise. Hey, straw man just called, wants his brain back. Come on in. So, for those of you smart enough and to have been watching Brad Stine Has Issues for a while, now you have come to realize that one of my main objectives on this show is to not only talk about a cultural issue, but actually to try to give you ways to combat lies, misinformation, and manipulation of reality in order to form a more robust worldview and to be able to defend it. Now, today we're going to explore one of the often used phrases by new atheists to demean theists and, as usual, Christians more specifically. It's the habit of many of them to use the phrase flying spaghetti monster as a way to put God in a category of ridiculous and absurd. Now, the main lesson you can garner from this term is to allow it to immediately remind you that whenever someone uses an absurd alleged correlation to your belief, and then use it to mock and ridicule your position, you can usually rest assured they are engaging in a philosophical flaw known as the straw man argument. Ironically, when dealing with atheists, I have discovered that most of them are horribly uneducated in the realm of philosophy. Most of the aggressive atheists on the internet rarely have an idea of their own. Now, their arguments usually take the form of repeating a meme or an idea that they've heard from a supposedly more qualified atheist and then regurgitate it to the masses, then step back and marvel at their intellect. In the case of philosophy, most of them are unqualified to engage in it simply because they never actually studied it. They instead studied another atheist's conclusion or premise and then simply repeat it. It's not only a lazy way to live, but it puts them in the unenviable position of once in a while having to try to defend it, which, because of their lack of acumen, causes them usually to deliver a final insult. Then run away, never to revisit the site again for fear of looking even more befuddled by their ignorance. So if someone then were to say, believing in God is analogous to believing in a flying spaghetti monster, what they're implying is that God is simply an invented entity that has never been, he has never been seen, and is all an illusion created by your fantasy. They're stating that God makes as much sense as a flying spaghetti monster. The formula for straw man is to first establish a false version of your position, hence the idea of a scarecrow giving the appearance of a farmer, but in actuality isn't alive or has sentience, though it can dance and sing and reason if discovered by a lost girl from Kansas, but that's an anomaly. That's quite rare, and we'll have to come back to that. And once the false version of your belief is created, they then move forward deconstructing and demolishing that position, which you never held in the first place. Notice, by the way, what information is missing, though. Can you see it? What's missing is actual information. To claim something someone believes is ridiculous isn't a refutation of your claim, but simply a mockery of it. What they haven't done is prove God isn't real, only that they don't believe in him. And somehow in their world, that passes for proving they are right. So, by creating a ridiculous entity like a flying spaghetti monster, and then mocking you as though belief in God equates to belief in something ridiculous, since they assume everyone agrees there is no spaghetti monster, let alone a flying one, so God must not exist either. And he's just a meaningless exercise, right? No one believes in a flying spaghetti monster, nor has anyone ever claimed to have seen one. No one in history has ever argued for the fact the flying spaghetti monster exists, and the whole concept of such an entity is clearly designed to not be taken seriously. On the other hand, Human beings from all walks of life, from every tribe, culture, village, and country, from as far back as 6,000 years ago to today, as I speak, have believed and still believe in God or gods. The majority of humans throughout history have always believed in something, though what form that something takes varies. But that something is bigger and wiser and more powerful and more benevolent than ourselves. And it exists. I mean, even the numerous science fiction stories always seem to assume the entity from another planet is always smarter and kinder and more empathetic than humans. Thus, our need to realize that they will come down and teach us how to live moral and more humane lives, since without them, we can't. Normally, of course, we humans begin to rebel and want to take these creatures and study them or hide them or use their powers in nefarious ways to gain our own power. In other words, atheist writers have to create their own salvation story, stolen, hijacked from Christianity, because they have none of their own in Darwinism. It doesn't exist, and they can't live with that. That's another proof of God, by the way, that atheists replace God for a materialized version of him, because humans were designed to worship God. Thus, when we eliminate him, we end up creating an idol or a counterfeit to take its place, because a meaningless life is unbearable. And yet, that is all atheism has to offer. As I've said many times, if your belief system is unlivable, perhaps you should abort it. There's never been a time in human history that the majority of humans have not believed in God. Atheism has never been the predominant perspective in human history. And this is even after we created the scientific method and discovered natural laws and answers to some perplexing questions like, where does rain come from and why do boats float? Now, keep in mind that just because the majority believes something doesn't make that something true. As a matter of fact, there's a philosophical concept that addresses that which is called argumentum ad populum, which is defined, if many believe so, it is so. But of course, that isn't true necessarily. Lastly, if you still believe in God, after the spaghetti monster nonsense, you will more than likely be subjected to the single most utilized technique in the atheist arsenal. And I use the word arsenal loosely, to say the least. It's one of the oldest philosophical flaws known as ad hominem approach, or attack the man, not the idea. My shorthand for it is insults instead of information. In other words, whenever someone uses verbiage that is insulting, degrading, mocking, and ridiculing your position, you can rest assured it is an ad hominem attack, because it simply makes fun of you instead of doing the hard work of proving your point isn't true. That must be the position of the Christian, by the way, to study, to show yourself approved unto God. Every book by Nancy Pearcey would be a great start. Christians, it is time to up our game here. Please, I can't do all the work for you. I'm getting tired. Plus, I have a new comedy album to write. Come join me in this new Christianity in America, where we are preparing our minds, our bodies, and our abilities to go forth and watch for a third great awakening. I believe in it. I hope you can too. Hang on. We got a lot of war in front of us. But God wins. Every time. Hey guys, if you enjoyed that, do me a favor. Go to Brad Stine Has Issues on YouTube and subscribe. Doesn't cost you nothing yet. And then go to my Facebook fan page and follow and like that. Share it all around. I want to be able to continue to stand up for God and country and tear down political correctness every time I can. So, with your help, we can go forth and help recreate a nation. But I need your subscriptions to help do that. So go, please subscribe right now. I would really super much appreciate it. Super much.